Yeah.
There we go.
Woo.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll start us off.
Oh, okay.
All right, welcome to the SillyWilly podcast. My name's Mike. I'm a 37-year-old man who lives in the Oaks. And here with me is William.
I'm Will. I am a 18-year-old man. I live in Warrumby, which is basically just the Oaks. Yeah.
But further away.
Further.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And we are starting a podcast today.
Yes, we are.
Podcast. What a time, what a place. 2026. It's time to begin recording a podcast for the world to hear our thoughts, hear our conversations, and to be a part of things. Well, Will, can I start us off by asking you a question?
Okay. Yes, you can.
What is a podcast?
A podcast is people getting together, like it's normally a regular thing, and they just record themselves having a conversation. Normally, podcasts will choose a specific topic, whether it's history or theology, politics, something like that. It's just them recording their thoughts, and then they post it, and people can listen to it. So.
Nice. So really sort of two parts. There's a conversation and an audience listening.
Yes.
I guess, why does the audience listen? What are they getting out of this?
I don't know why they listen to us. I don't like. They can learn stuff. It can be enjoyable. A lot of podcasts are funny. That's a lot of people listen to that. I listen to Hamish and Andy. If we're talking about podcasts, I listen to Hamish and Andy and Making the Argument with Nick Freitas, which are two different podcasts. But
Yeah. Those are two different podcasts with different hosts.
Different hosts.
And
very
different titles.
Different countries. Yeah.
Different countries. What a multinational world we live in with multiple nations. Very nice. So for the audience, sometimes it's entertainment, sometimes a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
Do you want to... We have a bit of a laugh sometimes.
We do have a bit of a laugh. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Very good. And Hamish and Andy, you mentioned Hamish and Andy. What do you think works with their podcast and just their years and years of stuff?
I mean, they build a career on just being friends, basically, and just doing, like, typical friend stuff, but obviously they're a bit famous and they have a bit more money because they've got, like, TV funding and everything. So they can take it to the bit more extreme, like they did all their gap year stuff and everything. But their podcast is just them just talking about life and random things. They're very much built like a culture like around their podcast and stuff. Like, they've got tons of inside jokes and all that kind of stuff with their audience. So.
Yeah. Do they still do Fred Bassett?
The name sounds familiar enough, so I thought I might. Yeah.
You got to fight for your right to listen to Fred Bassett on the radio. That's reality. Yeah, so they've had years and years of just being friends. Yeah. And I think a little bit in that for the audience is some vicarious joining into that friendship. That the audience, in a way, gets to be in that friendship, imagining themselves in there. Yeah. And I wonder how much it tends towards people imagining themselves as Andy, being friends with Hamish, rather than imagining themselves being Hamish, being friends with Andy.
Yeah.
Just to start us off with a bit of a diss, Andy Lee, he's just kind of there.
Well, they do talk about this. Hamish is very much like they call him fast and loose and stuff. He's very much the disorganized, chaotic one. Well, Andy's a lot more put together. Andy's very organized. Like, they have a segment about people ringing up telling Andy how unorganized something in their lives is just to annoy him. Because he's very put together and everything.
Yeah.
So I guess when it comes to...
I mean, that does sound dreadfully boring. Yeah. So, Andy Lee, if you're listening...
Why are you listening?
Why are you listening? Yeah. And why is anyone listening to you?
Yeah.
Everyone just wants to listen to Hamish, but...
I kind of like Andy, but Hamish is my favourite.
Yeah. On what planet is anyone saying Andy Lee is their favourite?
His fiancé. His fiancé might say that.
He was engaged to Megan Gale. You're probably too young to remember who Megan Gale was.
Yeah, I also don't know celebrities apart from Hamish and Andy. So.
I mean, I maybe only knew who Megan Gale was after Andy started dating her. But, man, what a fumble. Yeah. I mean, absolutely insane what amount of drugs he gave to her that Megan Gale would date Andy Lee. But something happened there. Like, there must have been a lot of money changing hands. It must have been
not at all what I thought would be
something. But Anyway, but part of the whole thing of a podcast is I get to join in. The audience gets to join in vicariously, imagining having a friend. Imagine having a friend. What would that be like? You mentioned also Hamish and Andy's gap year.
Yeah.
You recently had your gap year.
Well, I went overseas after finishing school. Yeah, but it wasn't a whole year.
Oh, it wasn't a whole year. It was
2 weeks.
Schoolies trip.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing in place of a gap year. Was your schoolies trip.
Yeah.
So
without all the schoolies stuff. Yeah.
It's fairly equivalent.
Yeah.
You sure?
I mean, we were in America, so I couldn't.
That's the schooliest place there is. How many schools does America have?
A lot more than Australia.
A lot more than Australia. So, in terms of schoolies, that's all the way up there. And yeah, what kinds of things did you do while you're in America? Get shot at, or go to the doctor and sign your life savings away?
I was trying to keep the video like monetized, but you've got rid of that in 5 minutes.
You can always edit bits out of whatever I say.
Sure, it's just more work. So we're in San Francisco for a bit.
San Francisco.
The mate I was with hadn't been before. I've been once before. So we did all like the major like Golden Gate Bridge, all that kind of stuff. All the stuff that you like want to see when you're in San Francisco. Saw the house from Mrs. Doubtfire.
Right up there.
Like every time I'm like, yeah.
Did you get a Full House?
We did actually. We saw those.
Wow.
I haven't seen Full House, but my mate had, so I was just sure they're famous.
I grew up with Full House anyway. Yeah. That's
And then we actually went to Cincinnati, Ohio, to drive into Kentucky because Cincinnati's like right next to the border. Drove into Kentucky to look at, go to the Creation Museum and the model, like the life-size model of Noah's Ark, which is very cool. 3 stories.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's just one. It's like 4 chapters in the Bible.
Yeah,
that's one story.
The building was 3 stories. Yeah. It was very impressive.
Did it have a keel? Is always the thing that I'm concerned with.
Did it have a keel? It was filled with like they came up with all these contraptions and ideas on how they could feed the animals and stuff. That was really cool.
Nice. Like the description of it isn't boat, it's box.
Yeah.
So a box doesn't have a keel.
Although.
So why did they put a keel on it?
Well, if you were trying to get a box that could navigate.
It didn't need to navigate.
Well, a box trying to you'd have to watch out for something probably, or try to just I don't know. A box floating in the ocean with some ability to move around is a boat. That's just what a boat is.
Well, yeah, a boat has a keel, a box does not.
But a box that you're making to go in the ocean could probably have a keel.
Yeah, I don't think Noah's Ark had a keel.
Well, this one did.
Key point of contention. Also, Augustine's interpretation of the Ark relates it more to a coffin than anything else.
Although the point of a coffin isn't that you come out of it, so.
Well, let me tell you something about my good old buddy Jesus.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't in
He
the coffin.
came out of the tomb.
Yes, but he wasn't in a coffin.
Yeah, that's all right. It's still it's the same picture.
Yeah.
That is that they were buried in the waters, and they died, and they came back to life out of the waters. That is key ideas of Noah's Ark.
Right.
Is going through death into life.
Mm.
Do you know Michael Rosen and his poetry?
No, but
fantastic poet. He famously said, "We can't go over it, we can't go under it. We'll have to go through it." And that's really.
Did he write "We're Going on a Bear Hunt"?
Yes, that's right. He's a great poet.
Yeah.
Chocolate Cake. Many fantastic poems by Michael Rosen, but yeah, we have to go through it, and that's what the gospel says with death. We have to go through death into life, and that's what they did in Noah's Ark. They went through death into life in a box, in a coffin.
Yeah.
Very good. So in terms of what a podcast is, we'll come back to sort of my first question there. So it's a bit the the audience getting to vicariously participate, imagining themselves as a boring person like Andy Lee, hanging out with someone entertaining like Hamish Blake, and being able to picture themselves as being part of a friendly conversation, a fun conversation, educational conversation, or significant political conversation, but not actually. Well, what do you think about that, sort of the limits of a vicarious relationship, that you're not actually in that thing, you're watching it through a screen, you're listening to it while you do the dishes. What's the relationship there? Is there something deficient in a...
Well, I guess because to one degree you are like part of a community when you're like listening to when you're regularly listening to a podcast and stuff, and you're engaging, that kind of stuff. There is like there is a kind of community built around like the Hamish and Andy podcast. But when
join our Discord.
No, I don't have Discord. But what's different is like a lot of time people talk about like one-sided relationships with like a lot of like people like followers and their influencers and those kind of things on the internet.
Ariana Grande has never written me back.
I don't follow her, so I haven't tried. Where there's like each individual like follower like thinks they've got like some like relationship or something with the influencer, but in reality the influencer has no idea who they are, and there's probably millions upon millions of people exactly like them, like but there's like people have this expectation, or they know like exactly what I think and stuff, or they're doing this for me like specifically and stuff, especially if they're making like videos about some form of like niche like type of content and that kind of stuff. People can get very attached and that kind of stuff, but I think people need to remember you don't actually know them. They're like they don't know you at all. I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say, but
being known, I think, is a significant thing. Like if you can see a movie or listen to a song or watch a podcast where your thoughts are well expressed, like that's a validating thing to experience as a human being, to go, oh, someone else knows this angst, someone else has this logical movement, someone else thinks and feels and lives this way, just as I do. And so it is a shared experience in that way, as you go, oh, that's me.
What you need to remember is just because someone else has a shared experience doesn't automatically make you best friends, or like you don't necessarily have that personal relationship. Like sometimes people assume that they've got this really close personal relationship with like a celebrity. Like, no, you might like agree things, or you might be really interested in the same stuff, or most likely you're really interested in what they're doing. Doesn't mean that you're like best friends. And then some like influencers and stuff and celebrities are really like friendly to their fans and all that kind of stuff. Some aren't as much. It depends on the person, but you do see that like parasitic relationship a little bit online and stuff, especially.
That then there's a influencer just sucking their followers dry, taking all their money, and not actually giving anything in return.
Taking advantage of their fan base's dedication to them and stuff.
All right, let's pause this for a sec.
Sure.
Just want to say to our followers, you're my best friend. I know you. I like you. I like the person you are. And you're really important to me. You and I are best friends. Right, thanks, Will. In terms of a conversation, I think we've talked enough about audience. Let's flip over to conversation. In terms of conversation, what we're doing as we speak together in any circumstance, let's drill down into that space. What is a conversation?
The exchange and in some cases competition of different ideas and stuff from different perspectives.
So exchanging ideas and competing ideas.
Often there'll be different ideas and like you're not even like conscious. Like a debate is where there are two different ideas and you're trying to do your best to justify why one idea is correct and the other is incorrect, or why one idea is more important or significant or whatever. But in a conversation, sometimes like there are different ideas in the conversation, and you'll like repeat certain things, or you push them for certain things, or your position in a certain way compared to other ideas, where you're not consciously trying to say my idea is correct, your idea is incorrect, but to a degree that could still be what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not always like that. Sometimes you're just like sharing ideas and stuff. It's like, oh, that's a cool idea. That's a cool idea. That thing. But yeah.
Yeah. I think that's interesting bringing up debates. That's a very formalized conversation. So formalized that there's a winner.
Yes. It's my favourite kind of conversation.
Just to be able to say to someone, you won that conversation.
Yeah.
I did debating once when I was in high school, and I was a ring-in, and I had no idea why I was asked to come.
Yeah.
And I did not understand anything anyone said for the whole conversation. I think we were debating Marxism or something. And I did not know anything about Marxism. I was just sitting there. I got up, I read my palm cards, and I think I added some whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why I did that.
I did debating from late primary school to like probably like early mid high school. I can't remember the exact years, but I was fourth speaker throughout because I was like wasn't
the silent speaker.
I wasn't overly a fan of public speaking, which a lot of people who know me are surprised by that. B, there were much better public speakers in the group. To see, I also like when I was doing that, my entire job was coming up with arguments, coming up with counter arguments to those counter arguments, writing rebuttals like for what the other team has said. It was all about like making arguments and stuff, and like that's the thing I enjoyed most about debating. And that's what a lot of debating is when you take away the public speaking element. So I really focus on that, and that's the part I enjoyed.
Engaging in rebuttals.
Yeah.
What makes a good rebuttal?
Because some people, I've heard some rebuttal, and I'm not like an expert, but this is my experience. I've heard some people, like when they've made a rebuttal, it would be like, the opposition said this, but we say this way. That's not really a rebuttal. You're just restating what the two ideas are. What you really need to do is, there are two ways something can be wrong. It can either be like false, or it's ignoring something that's true. So either you have to point out like, if say Marxism, I'm going to isolate all our Marxist followers now. If like the opposition said like Marxism or
Marxist followers, you can unsubscribe now. That's fine.
We did what you anyways. Like if the opposition said like, oh, Marxism is great, it really boosts the economy and like increases productivity. Well, I can bring up the example of like every single communist country in the world and how it's decreased productivity, and how when you remove the incentives for like growing wealth and those kind of things, it removes the incentive to work really, and people look for the bare minimum or even less than the bare minimum. Yeah. Because if they're being supplied with resources, they don't need to work.
I saw an example the other day that was Soviet screws. The screws they all go in the same bucket, so it doesn't actually matter how well your factory's running, and then the screws were increasingly substandard, so they brought in marking the screws to identify which factories had made such a terrible screw, which ones had made a good one. Maybe it was bolts.
There's also stuff like, it was like with nails, screws, coats, everything. They were made to like the same standard size, which meant like a lot of like women and children, for instance, the coats would be too big for them, or if someone was really tall, it'd be too small for them, and those kind of stuff. Because when like you made a government quota, everything had to be like uniform and everything. There's no variation. If someone saw a gap in the marketplace and be like, oh, there's like not enough people producing really small coats, so I'm going to start making small coats for children, that couldn't happen because they had to be all the same size. So that's one way someone can be wrong. They can say this is true when it's not. But also, if they were to say like, oh, Marxism is the like best system in the world because it provides this, this, and this. Well, you can say, but there's other systems that provide that and that are arguably better. So that's also missing what the truth is. So they're saying something that's false, and then it's failing to say what is true. And those are the two, and you can rebut that and say, so for example, with the earlier Marx example, you can say, well, no, that's wrong because this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work. And you can say, well, no, it's not the best because this system provides that, this system provides that, this system provides that.
So at some point, you're finding a weak point in the other person's argument. You're finding a weakness of idea there. Yeah.
There's also sometimes people will just be logically inconsistent. They'll be like,
Yep.
well, Marxism is best because the sky's blue or something. Like, well, those two things are completely unrelated. Doesn't support. Yeah. I haven't heard anything wider string.
I find in sort of theological arguments, you find quite long arcs,
yes.
and then all right, there's a whole bunch of words in between, but this thing and this thing cannot be true together. You've undercut something quite significant at some point. And what I think sometimes is the thing that you're accidentally denying. If someone wants to uphold an idea of free will, that is that humans have a will that is not at all constrained by God, not at all constrained just by being human, but then you lose so many ideas when you try to take that up, because we kind of blatantly are constrained in a whole bunch of ways. We are finite beings. We're limited. We're created.
I can't fly to the sky right now.
Can't do whatever you want. No. You can't just follow your will. Your will is constrained in so many ways.
I always follow my will.
Very good. Very good. So there's finding the weak point in someone else's argument. I think a helpful thing in a conversation is to enter in on the other person's side, which maybe is harder to do in a debate, in a formal conversation, but in more casual podcasting. Entering into the other side actually allows you to go, right, what are those things that you're concerned to uphold? What are those things that are important to you? And still looking for those weaknesses to go, actually, because of these weak points in your thinking, in your argument, you're not really upholding those things that you want to uphold very well. You could uphold those things better if, instead of building from this premise, you build from this premise. If you, instead of thinking this way, you think this way. And I think sometimes the hopeful thing in entering into someone else's argument is go, actually, where do I need to experience what they're experiencing and see their concern from their side?
I think so in like debating and arguments, straw manning someone's argument is often an effective way to like
lose
to make
friends.
Yes, it is. But like from an audience perspective, like when you strawman someone's argument and you like beat up that strawman, it looks like you're being really successful. But I think really strawmanning is it's such a weak and like almost like cowardly way of like debating, because you're not really engaging with the other person's ideas and those kind of things. So I think what's helpful in some debates is instead of strawmanning, you Iron Man the other person's argument. So you hear what they're saying and stuff, and you're like, okay, would you agree if I said, and then you try to create the most robust like articulation of their arguments as possible. And so would you agree with that? And they would like probably say yes, and they're like, okay, now and then you argue against that Iron Man. And that much more robustly shows, like, I think that proves a lot better if you're correct, how you are correct. Because instead of like, say if I said Marxism, well, Marxism is just like poor people being annoyed at the rich people because the rich people are more successful, so they want to take all the stuff for the rich people to give to themselves.
And so then you end up with a government led by poor, unsuccessful people, and they bring in all their unsuccessful, poor people policies.
Yes. No, that's just
ludicrous.
That is a straw man of Marxism.
Man, I hate Marxism.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
Again, Marxists. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Get out here.
Now, some people would probably agree with that straw man, but that's a straw man. But if I said I'm like, I would probably
Marxism has a concern that all people be fairly treated, and recognizing that sometimes there's people who want to work hard, but they're so far at the bottom of everything of society that they can't actually attain all that much further up. So if we level the playing field, then that helps.
I suppose you use Marx's quote of each according to their ability, each according to their need, that kind of thing. If you then present that version of Marxism, like it's the means to help like the people who for one way or another, whether it's like oppression or discrimination or whatever, they don't have the facility to care for themselves, to care for their family, those kind of things. and it's a method by which that we can equally distribute wealth and resources to look after those people. If you present that to a Marxist, they'll be like, sounds great, perfect. Then if you attack and rebut and debate that Iron Man of Marxism, that would be you're making a much more effective argument, and you're proving your point to a much greater degree than if you were to use the strawman example. And also what you said before about, you look at what their fundamental values or whatever they're trying to argue, and like, okay, well, if we can apply those sentiments or something, let's see maybe why if you really want to help people, well, maybe Marxism isn't the best way to help people. What about, like, say, if we have a more free market system, but then people have a greater amount of wealth to then donate and do charities and those kinds of stuff. If people have more wealth, if more wealth is being generated, then maybe they can that wealth can go further, rather than limiting the amount of wealth and resources we're producing. That might be a potential way, because you say, look, we're still helping those people, but we don't have all the flaws of Marxism. There's a lot of flaws of Marxism. Again, Marxists, why are you watching?
Because I think even like Australia's somewhat socialist, but
we're definitely left-leaning on economics more than other Western countries.
But it reduces the scope for generosity. And I think then the problem is then you look at somewhere like America, where their medical care system is quite poor. It's quite expensive, and it's something that seems to be fairly manipulated, that even the bringing in Obamacare and everything has then meant there are insurance companies just profiting off it, rather than being generous. So it is kind of the issue of, like, I want a world where people are generous freely, rather than being threatened with whatever the ATO threatens them with. But people being able to freely be generous and care for others without being forced to. But then that doesn't necessarily happen either. So I think in the same way that the system that I want doesn't work, as well as Marxism doesn't work, we do need something in the middle. We need a power, an authority that is forcing generosity, because as good as it would be that people would just be generous themselves, they're not.
The system you described, to me it sounds similar to the very classically liberal system that was America pre-16th Amendment, very early days.
The 16th Amendment, guys.
That's the federal income tax in America.
The right to bear arms.
No, the second. So John Adams, when he was one of his writings, he talks about how, I can't remember what writing. Something tells me it's like in the Constitution or something, but I don't want to say that in case I get.
John Adams somewhere wrote.
Somewhere he wrote that this system is fit and proper for a moral and religious people. It's unsuited for any other. And there was the idea of, because the American system is basically liberty and freedom to the maximum possible extent. Especially without a federal income tax, it was make as much money as you want, leave as much money that you leave to your children should be taxed, in my opinion. Once you have wealth, it shouldn't be taken. It's
such a weird time to tax people as well. Sorry, your dad's dead. Now give us half your money.
I know he wanted to leave you this money and stuff, so you could keep running the family business or something. But no, we're going to take it from you.
How much does that cripple businesses, particularly intergenerational businesses and stuff?
It always cracks me up the people saying tax the rich and all that stuff and put more pressure on big corporations and everything. Almost all of those policies tend to harm small businesses more. A minimum wage harms your local fish and chip shop so much more than it harms Coles or the other place I can't mention because of employment reasons.
But bigger companies just figure out how to underpay people more sensibly.
And they can also bear the cost a lot more because they're making so much more profit. It's more.
People I saw Chris Kohler talking about how much one company was taxed for underpaying their staff, or they're fined, and it was nothing compared to what they'd made that year. So within 1 year, it just dented their profit slightly. So it's a good investment opportunity. They've got a good business there.
I wouldn't call it a good business. It's just successful, but not
Profitable business.
Yeah, not ethical.
Maybe not ethical.
Yeah, or it could be ethical.
Maybe not moral and religious.
Yeah, it's not moral and religious, but who am I to say? I can't make a statement. So, well, the chances of that they're watching this is very low. But, and it was all the same. But yeah, so the idea of a maximum liberty society, which I think is a very good thing, because I think freedom and especially free market stuff that brings innovation when there's genuine incentives for someone to work. I think that's a very good thing, but it needs to coincide with a culture and a mindset and a norm of for example, Christianity, of being compassionate, being charitable, looking out for people. I think a society if I compared a socialist or Marxist society where people produce things, the government takes the resources and redistributes them, compared to a society where people can choose whether or not they give to charities or something, but then they have strong community values and stuff, and they look out for your neighbor. Where if you know you lost your job, you have multiple people that you could go to who you could stay at their place, or they could help to and that kind of stuff. Or you could go to their place and do some chores for them or something, to earn your keep, or to earn your food and that kind of stuff. I think that's a far better system than the alternative, because firstly the alternative, the socialist Marxist system has failed every single time. And I think part of the reason is that because it removes incentive, because you're well, why would I work if someone else is going to work for me? But the problem is, if everyone has that mindset, then no one really wants to work. And there's also problems with authoritarianism, complete government control, the government not being very people. The same socialists who complain about how corrupt politicians are and how long the line is at trying to get your driver's license or something. Well, they want the same people who make you wait half an hour to get a driver's license. They want them to run everything, including you look at Canada and their healthcare system. There's massive waiting lists that people just can't get surgeries because there's such high demand and government's not overly efficient, because when you remove incentives to make things more efficient,
there's no benefit there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Very well. In this, I was wanting. It's a very interesting conversation, but I wanted to talk about conversation itself. That it is that drilling down into the concerns of the other, finding what they're after, but also finding those weaknesses in their argument to find some way of building those up, and even finding moments where the other argument works somewhere, which I think there were balanced bits of that in that conversation, as we're talking about Marxism, of going, well, actually the alternative of just free capitalist market does require things from the people that I don't think we can expect from people. No. So there's a bit of a balance that we need to be somewhere in the middle.
But I think the free system, in order to work in a way where people care for themselves, it does require a cultural moral element of people actually being committed to looking after their neighbour. Which is hard to guarantee. I think there are ways that you can produce a society, but it's hard. I think culture affects politics a lot more than the other way around, in my opinion. So you need to develop and grow. And to agree, there's certain political stuff that can help facilitate a certain culture, but very much so culture. You need a certain culture that influences the politics, and then people also argue that this in the same way that politics is downstream of culture. Culture is down. Culture is. I sound like RFK Jr. there. Culture is down. Culture is downstream of religion. My personal belief is that a culture under the heavy influence of Christianity, not authoritarian, it's not I'm saying the government needs to mandate going to church, but in a way where
Richard Baxter, what a guy.
But where if a lot of people are genuinely Christian, or at least brought up in, what we used to have, brought up in a culture where Christian values and stuff are the norm, and they're treated like they're like I think
They still are.
Yeah.
Like, there's a Bluey episode, which is it puts up Santa.
yes.
If you're good, you get presents. If you're bad, you get coal. Against Jesus.
What book
Um,
is this? Is this a new one?
I don't know, Veranda Santa. I've seen
right.
it a few times. So it's
Oh,
old.
right, yeah.
But up against, actually, treat others the way you want to be treated. Love your neighbour.
Yeah.
And so I think we're not completely post-Christian. There are things
Yes.
where people are just going,
Yeah.
you know what, Santa sucks. Like, I can't live under a system where I am judged for my deeds.
Yeah.
Like, I will fail under that system.
Yeah.
And so a system of grace that we have in Jesus.
You went for Bluey. I was going to bring up. So Richard Dawkins? The he's a
God Delusion?
Yeah, very famous like this. But he recently said that he prefers to live in a Christian culture, because even if you disagree,
Because the UK culture at the moment is interesting.
yes, even if you disagree with the how we come to the conclusions that we do, and even if you believe with our theological claims, I think a lot of people do still see value in, and people in Western countries will say, oh well, that's not because of Christianity, that's just common sense. But then if you look throughout history,
it's not common sense.
not sacrificing your child is not common sense to a lot of people,
Yeah.
to a lot of cultures, to a lot of people now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you grow up in a Western country, there's most likely a lot of Western culture is very heavily influenced by Christianity. Even if a lot of Scandinavian countries,
More like
not-
Scandinavia, am I right?
not very high rates of Christianity, especially, but historically, they had a lot of Christian influence, and that established a lot of things that they have now, even if the people themselves aren't overly Christian now.
Yeah.
And I think that's true throughout a lot of the West, and a lot of those values. I'm reading a book. Well, I was reading a book, and then I got Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. So I'm reading that. Once I finish that, I'll go back to
Check out the Stoic over here.
Once I finish that, I'll go back to Dominion, the Making of the Western Mind, which is all about Christianity. I think, well, I don't know yet, because I haven't got that far in the book.
Yeah.
But apparently it's about Christianity's impact on Western civilization.
Nice.
But I do think Christian values paired with a good political and economic system, in my opinion, that would be fairly free, fairly libertarian. Obviously, I'm not an anarchist. We need some government and stuff. If we could have less of it, that would be great. But that has to be under the provisions of Christianity and stuff.
There needs to be
yes.
a shared cultural commitment
Yes.
after that.
Yeah.
Very good. But I really do want to talk about conversations themselves. These are just examples. Yeah. I mean, what is a podcast? It's conversation with an audience. We talked about audience. Now talking about conversations.
Yeah.
We're just having a very long example.
Yeah, we could be a podcast and have conversations.
We're having a conversation about conversations. I mean, we've got to establish what a podcast is before we can cast the pod.
I think they've figured it out by now.
Well, I'm new to this biz. I used to listen to the Hamish and Andy Drive show when I was your age, which was a few years ago. Anyway, half a lifetime ago. With a conversation though, one thing I think is interesting in conversations is what we mean by certain terms.
Oh, yeah.
This is particularly in sort of the Catholic and the Reformed traditions. We'll use the same words, but what we have behind those words is very different. Yeah. So even we'll both use the word grace, but what a Reformed tradition person believes by the word grace and what a Catholic person means by the word grace, very different things. How do you think we find those places where we're starting with different definitions of common language?
Because a lot of time in my conversations with people, or let's be honest, a lot of time in my arguments with people.
To conversate, to argue.
Even the word argue, I've had arguments about the word argue. Because I'll be in a conversation with someone and they'll say something, and I'll say, I would more argue this. And like, why are you saying argue? We're not having an argument. And like you don't have to argue everything. Like, for me, the word argument has an intellectual and the colloquial use. There's the colloquial use is argument, like yelling back and forth, that kind of thing. It's what people hear when you think of an argument. But also, I think, like the more like academic or intellectual use of the word argument is merely to present an idea in opposition to something.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily conflict. It's not necessarily fighting.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be violent or tear you down or whatever. I'm just saying, here's an idea. This is what I would support, and I'm acknowledging that it's different to what you're suggesting.
Yeah. Because we do have weighted terms. Like it's got all this emotional baggage to the word argument.
Weighted terms. That reminds me. I was watching a Redeem's Zoomer video. Who's a mainline Protestant apologist
A
on like
Zoomer?
Redeem Zoomer, because he's Gen Z.
Oh, dear.
Don't look at that. We're more conservative and Christian than your generation.
My generation?
Yeah. Well, you're millennial. Well,
I remember the millennium.
In America,
Y2K.
Australia's behind.
You were never afraid of your computers uprising and destroying you all?
No, now we just talk to the computer uprising. Like, it's like there's like shopping lists and stuff. like quite a few decades ago, people were worried about that robot that's going to be in their house listening to everything. So now we ask that robot for like recipes and stuff.
Where are the new Terminator movies?
We're completely desensitized. Oh yeah, well they stopped.
We don't care anymore.
Yeah, we're completely desensitized to it. But
my generation cared.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, your generation. Anyways.
Yeah.
But what I was saying about, but he made the point of
your
like
generation, not that much older.
True. You're older than I thought. I thought you were in like your 20s. No, actually I didn't know. Like early 30s. But he made the point about how like historically there was like problems between like Orthodox and Catholic, because the Orthodox this is very historical. They were using Greek and the Catholics were using Latin. Greek has a lot of philosophical baggage, while Latin has a lot of like legalistic baggage. And so the people in Latin would they'll translate it into Greek to say something to like the Orthodox. And then the Orthodox would say, well, you said that word, but that word means all this, like, there's all this stuff attached to it. There's all these connotations attached to something. While that wasn't as much problem for the Latin ones, but they had, they were still precise in their language and stuff, because again, it was very legalistic, but it was nowhere near as, philosophically complex as the Greek language. Yeah. And so there was competitions between theology because of that. Yeah, and I think even now, in just conversations with people, we all have different experiences and slightly different ways of understanding things, and so we all carry connotations to certain words.
Yeah.
Two people can say the same word, but they're already thinking of a lot of different things. I've used free will before, not using the definition you've used, but just using the general idea that people have some control over what they do and stuff.
Yeah.
And to a degree, people well, you don't get to define words. The word has a definition.
There's an entire tradition defining that term.
True. Yes.
You can't come in later and be like, well, actually, I've decided it means this. Particularly while there's current use. If it dropped out of use and there weren't proponents of free will, as in, I have a will that is unconstrained, I have a will like God's, then that's a little bit of a straw man argument, but that's essentially what they're saying. If those people die out and disappear for a while, then maybe you can come along and use free will in your way. I guess because your tradition that you live in, you're not encountering these people as much as you might. Exactly right. So then you do feel free to reimagine that term as it sounds to you, as you expect it to mean. But I think you're not far enough away that word is free of its baggage.
I agree. But the thing is, I don't think when people say words that carry baggage and they don't realize it, I don't think a lot of time, I wouldn't use the word they're reimagining the word, because all the time they don't know that there's an alternate use of the word, or they're not really thinking about that. They just think that's the word's used. And I agree that a word, words have meanings. Those meanings somewhat stay the same stuff, especially when they're continually used by a certain tradition. But words are also how people use them, and that the meaning of those words can like shift naturally. There are a lot of examples of words that we say now, or we don't say, because we're not allowed to. They used to mean different things in the past.
Acclimable.
Yeah, I was going for different words, but sure that works.
I used to say acclimable all the time.
Actually, I used the word postulates at a dinner recently, and like some people were completely surprised. Like, what? They're like, I've never heard that word before in my life. I'm like, because for me, I'm like, it's not like a common word. It's not like I'm at the dinner table talking about postulates. But a postulate, for those of you,
have you been to the doctor to talk about them?
No. Oh. Yeah, a postulate
sounds like something you should talk to your GP about.
The postulate is just they're just a series of arguments or logical followings that form a larger argument. So, for example, I can't say that. There's a biologist who has a list of postulates for figuring out if a certain pathogen is causing a certain disease. Like, you take the sample, you find the pathogen, you inject that sample into a healthy patient, see if they begin to show symptoms, and take the blood out from them. Look at that. Those are a series of logical steps that you can take to determine an outcome. So postulates is just something.
Key logical steps.
Yeah, key logical steps.
Yeah.
But I had no idea what that word was. I'm like, that seems like a word it's not like
allow me to postulate this to you.
It's not like an overly common word that I use or hear, but it is something that I know of. This is some people never heard of it before, never used it before.
Well, we'll see how we go.
Alright, yeah. Sorry, we just had some technical difficulties. Our camera thing stopped working, so we're recording it from the laptop. So
hopefully this works.
Hopefully it works.
Otherwise,
hopefully the audio didn't just get so much worse. It probably did, but yeah, that's something we're going to work on. Yeah.
Who knows if any of the recordings work so far?
True.
We haven't checked.
Yeah, we haven't checked at all. Should have done that before we. Yeah.
So
don't donate to our Patreon to get us some better equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Will.
Yeah.
How do you drill down into figuring out a difference in definitions of words?
I mean, really, you can ask, what do you mean by that? And then hope they don't use the word in the definition. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, grace is just grace, mate. What else do you expect?
Yeah. Yeah. Start sounding like Matt Walsh after a bit. But yeah, no, that's the simplest way to do it. If you can find, and then if you say okay, so if I said this, and if you give a different definition to what you think they understand the word as, and they say, yeah, I agree, then that can give you an idea. Okay, so that's how I use the word and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, I guess there is also if you're both trying to do that, then it can be really helpful. But sometimes it can feel like you're the only one interested in having a proper conversation. So you're putting all this effort into figuring out what words they're using and stuff, but they just keep using. And sometimes people use words with different meanings and connotations, which is completely within the same conversation, which is fair because language can be used in a bunch of different ways, depending on the context. But sometimes it's a bit annoying if you put all this effort in trying to figure out what they're saying, and then they just keep changing it up. It's a bit, yeah.
Yeah. A criticism is a compliment of a compliment. So I think there can be moments where it's just the more you can stay in the conversation, the more you can actually drill down into what do you really mean as you use this word. And sometimes it is persuading people, actually, I think we've got a different definition for that word.
Yeah.
I think at the moment we're assuming that we mean the same thing, but I don't think we should hold on to that assumption.
And sometimes you can have the same definition, but one of you can think that it's a good it's a good thing. I can't think of an example off the top of my head. But let's say I think that a strawberry is a sweet berry, and you can agree, and the other person can agree, I think it's a sweet berry, but one of you likes sweet things and the other one doesn't like sweet things. One of you could have the connotation of strawberries being really nice to eat because they're really sweet. One of you they're too sweet, they make me feel sick. And you agree on the definition, but the connotation and the application of the definition is different.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of the time with conversations, the thing is actually staying in the conversation.
Yeah.
To finding the point at which there is a disconnect, that there's where is the rub? That's not always immediately obvious. That sometimes
Yeah.
takes a fair bit of time to actually find that moment
Mm.
of, oh, actually, the way you're talking about this thing says to me, you care about this but not this. You've not thought about this space over here. We need to find the way to that zone. Yeah. Wittgenstein talked about a beetle in a box.
Right.
I think it was Wittgenstein or someone. Beetle in a box. It's pretty fun. Like, just the idea that everyone's got this idea in their head, and you can see the outside, you can see the wrapping paper, but you can't see inside. You can't actually experience someone else's mental processes from the inside.
You don't know when you say beetle what they think of.
Yeah, we're packaging up what we think expresses what we have inside. How well are we even packaging our own expressions, let alone how well are other people packaging their expressions? And sometimes, it is just a topic where I've spent ages thinking about this thing.
Yeah.
Someone else has come in with, this is the first time they're having a conversation about it.
Yeah.
They're making whatever assumptions they can to hold on to the conversation and keep up. But that's hard. You're just making random assumptions without really having a lot of time to figure out the implications of those things. And
that's something I think about. Like, if you're having a disagreement or just like a conversation with someone you know really well, then a lot of time you make the assumption, like if someone says something and like, to me that sounds like an outrageous idea or that doesn't sound very good, but I trust this person, I know this person, so I don't think that's what they're trying to say. So then there's almost something that suggests, oh no, I should double check what they mean by this, because it sounds like I'm misinterpreting what they're saying. Then also, like, even if you just know someone, and especially if they're similar to you, you probably have very similar meanings and definitions for words and stuff. And sometimes it is very enjoyable for me when I can have a conversation with someone and I don't have to be explaining every second word that I say, and we're not too worried about the connotations of what the words say, because we know that they're probably similar, or we can understand the other person to a large degree. But that comes with relationship and connection.
Yeah, which is to say that more distant you are from each other, the harder that conversation is. We talked before about the word argument.
Yes.
Thinking of it in sort of a rationalizing sort of sense rather than a fight.
Yeah.
But people do seem to have quite a hang up with that word, that it does mean fight. What do you think are good alternatives to the word argument?
The thing is, like, conversation doesn't, because an argument is specifically there as a competition between the ideas, and there's probably a correct or less incorrect answer.
I think even not that definition of argument either. Just the argument, like an argument as in a logical progression.
Yeah.
So logical progression, I don't know.
But then if you can
your logical progression there is quite interesting.
Yeah, or you say, I would logically progress that. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I would suggest, or you can do like the I think, or like that kind of stuff. I think people could just stop being so sensitive and Nancy about me using the word argue, but that's my approach to things.
But I think if you're using a word that kind of in the end shuts down the conversation, I did that to soften my idea because I was criticizing you. I used I think as I think. Shutting down conversation isn't what you're aiming to do.
No.
You want to prolong the conversation so you can actually get into the ideas. So using a word like argue to mean logical progression, it then shuts down the conversation at kind of a silly point. Like, that's not even the point of the argument. The point of the argument is whatever the content is, but identifying their progression of ideas as an argument is then insulting to them. And I think insulting to people, they're like, no, I'm not an arguing person. I'm not a mean person. So you can be a kind person who argues well and is thoughtful. What is the more helpful words to use? I think something like flow of ideas. Ideas, I think the more we can stick to words that people use, the more helpful that is. So ideas, people have ideas. They're all right with that.
What's the line you draw between speaking how you like normally speaking how you feel comfortable, and expressing your ideas, and then also willing to accommodate to other people, how they perceive ideas, and also you've mentioned like people's feelings or not wanting to feel like it's like a fight because like they use the word argue and stuff. Like to me, like people know me in general, I tend to lean to more like no, I tend to just say what I think, be a bit more blunt and honest and stuff, and I tend like there's not for me there's not a problem when I use the word argue. Because even if people take that as a conflict between ideas, and I think I'm just like it's something I just do naturally of separating a conflict between ideas and then separating that from a conflict between people. Like
it's not relational conflict.
Yeah,
it's
like
just
I can have arguments and disagreements with like people in my life. It doesn't, but to me, it doesn't affect like my relationship with them like at all. To them, like
not having arguments with those people would be a severely broken relationship.
If I would much prefer a friend where maybe we have disagree slightly on things, but we can have like really like long arguments and everything. I'd much prefer that than someone where I don't know if we do agree on everything because we avoid anything there is to argue about and we never have any like conflict of ideas. Honestly, to me that sounds a bit boring, especially if that means I'm having to like people say like walking around on eggshells and stuff. If I have to avoid a bunch of stuff and like put what I would like to talk about on the back burner or not even be able to talk about it with them because to accommodate to their feelings. Like to a degree, like you always have to accommodate to the other person's feelings and that's like the kind thing to do. But if it's incredibly one-sided in a relationship, which I think people who tend to be more like me, who like debating, who like arguing, and who don't mind the conflict of ideas, I think we're oftentimes more expected and more pushed to downplay or to kind of like hide that nature more than people who don't like arguing are told, well, you just have to deal with it sometimes, or you have to be able to argue. That's my interpretation. Obviously, I'm biased because I'm the kind of person who likes to argue and stuff. So obviously, I'm going to be told. I'm told to not argue things as much, more than I'm told to, like, accommodate for people wanting to argue. But
helpful map I've seen is kind of x-axis, caring about ideas, y-axis caring about people. And so I think there is a space to care a lot about people and care about ideas, just as there is a space to not really care about people but to care about ideas, to not care about people or ideas, and to just care about people and not ideas. I think we want to be up in that corner where we're caring about people and ideas. We want to care about both.
Yes.
And so I think there are there are moments where there are people that's like, I can't trust you that I would speak openly and honestly with you. And so as much as, I'm smiling and nodding along, this relationship is kind of dead. So there are people up that end, but then there are also up the other end of you're the person who just keeps pushing your own ideas and the other person's just like, I can't get a word in here.
And when you're talking like so high value of ideas and high value of people, I think there's like sometimes you have to recognize like when it's like two friends just discussing, obviously you want to care a lot for your friend, but also like you should be able to openly express ideas. But there's some maybe like a political debate like between like two politicians or something, where it's not that you don't care about the other person or that you don't value the other person, but the priority should be the competing of ideas, where it's not like and I would even argue it to the expense of the other person. Like, if there are two politicians arguing, you should be able to present your ideas, present your policies, and present your arguments for the policies. And I don't mean you have to be insulting the other person while you're doing this, but you should be able to say that even if it makes the other politician feel bad or something. Like, I would hate... I was going to say I would hate to live in a country. I would...
You do live in a country.
No.
We all live in a country.
Not all of us. Some people live, like, outside of, like... some people live on the international waters.
International Space Station.
No, that's not a country. So people are in international waters.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
There's not many people, but...
Yeah.
I don't, as far as I know, there's no people group that are established in the international waters.
Pirates.
Well, no, but...
Radio pirates.
Yeah, but they have to dock somewhere.
Yeah, I suppose.
And like even like
other pirates.
like even like Somali pirates are Somali. So
Yeah. International waters pirates.
I think that's where the pirates go.
Yeah, fair enough.
I was wondering like if there's any floating farms or.
The raft. What a game.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So there can be a little bit of tension, and there are circumstances where you're not going to care about person as much.
Yeah.
Going to care about ideas more. And there are times where you care more about person than idea.
Yeah.
Like someone saying, "Oh, my dog just died." Well, rather than getting too much bogged down in ideas, it is time to care for the person as a person and share with them in their grief and their concerns. So there's a bit of multiple spaces to be concerned for people.
It's like if someone's, my cat died. Oh well, dogs are better than cats. So well,
yeah.
But then also,
it's the wrong idea to go for ideas.
But also if you're talking about how you think dogs are better than cats, and then saying, oh, can you not talk about it because that makes me feel bad because my cat died 3 years ago. Be like, okay. So
3 years ago.
Time to move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were like two extreme examples. Like
Do you know cats in like Western society typically cats have 9 lives? But I think there's in some Asian countries cats have 7 lives. Well, this is the tradition. But then in Greece, cats get 0 lives.
So is that immortal or always dead?
0 lives. Sorry, I misread that actually. In Greece, cats get olives.
Okay. Right.
Olives. Because the O looks like a 0.
I got the joke. There are people not even watching the podcast. I got the joke.
It's a good joke.
It's alright. Yeah. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Audience that doesn't exist, probably.
Yeah. Hi, Mum.
Hi. My mum's not going to watch this.
I don't think my mum's going to watch this. But yeah, so there are spaces where you would go, okay, actually, need to care more about the person than the ideas at this point. But I think, I hear the concern as well of actually how much am I watering myself down all the time that I'm never genuinely engaging with people. I'm always presenting a guarded and
not necessarily
curated self.
Not necessarily guarded, but curated. I think watered down was a good way to put it.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think it is a little bit picking your battles. Like, in terms of argument means a logical progression of ideas. Yeah. I'm like, I mean, I know that's true, but also language is built on use. So the way that people use the word, it's laden in a way that I think is silly. I'm not in charge of how everyone uses words. Yeah. There's no dictionary police coming around saying, no, you've misused this word. Yes. You're going to jail. Like, just people are free to use words and words progress and move over time.
And you're free to use words however you want. But there's also but you have to be reasonable about you have to use them in a way that people that would be fair for other people to understand. Because you don't have to. But if you want to have an actual conversation, you can't just go up to someone and say cat, dog, banana, strawberry, and expect them to know exactly what you mean.
I can't go around using the word acclimable. Acclimable is a word I just made up.
Right.
I was like, that's very acclimable.
Yeah.
I've never really defined it. I just use it sometimes. Isn't that acclimable?
So Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, just throw it out sometimes. It pretty much just annoys my wife. But I can't then go and expect people would understand what that word means. Yeah. I would be very surprised if I had someone else use the word. That's acclimable.
Yeah. I might start using it.
Well, I'll send you the spelling sometime.
This is not the kind of thing that you can figure out just from sounding it out, or
how would you spell it?
ACCLUMABLE.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
There we go.
I mean, that's one of the benefits of the word, that it's easy to spell.
I mean, you could still send the spelling to me, in case I forget.
Yeah, well, there you go. You can get the t-shirts made. But in terms of, connecting with people, you need to have some idea of the other person in mind.
Yeah.
That they will be able to understand this.
Yes.
They will be able to receive what I'm saying. I've packaged it in such a way that they can accept it. And so sometimes the idea argument, it's like, progression of ideas, flow of ideas, your flow of meaning, finding other words to use in that space is helpful, just because if I shut down the conversation by saying, oh, you're using an argument with me, well, that's just a dumb spot to shut the conversation down at. Like, I want to keep going beyond that. I want to keep the conversation going. Not wanting to end it at such a silly point.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's such a silly point to end a conversation, just saying, yeah. So I don't consider it necessarily watering down. I consider it as being mindful of the other person, caring for the other person.
I think there is, I agree, but I think there is an extent where it does become watering down. Like there's caring about the person until, like, especially when it's not reciprocated. Yeah. Like I have, like, for example, I have friends who very much would lean differently politically to me. We disagree on religion, disagree on, like, most things, and we also disagree in how, in terms of confrontation stuff. I tend to lean more towards arguing, debating. I enjoy that. She very much does not, but like, we can still have conversations and stuff. And she can accommodate me preferring to, like, argue just as much as I try and restrain myself, because there's a reciprocation there. But if it's, like, constantly one-sided and I experience this a bit where I'm always like, okay, I have to control my mannerisms, control how I speak and everything, as to not offend the other person. But there's no allowance of reciprocation from the other person. Like, oh, well, maybe I can deal with, like, a little bit of, like, pushback on my ideas and that kind of stuff. When there's none of that, I'm like, I do feel very watered down, and, like, I'm not engaged in the conversation if I'm not. If I can't communicate the way I communicate, then I'm not going to be engaged in conversation.
Yeah. And I think there is space sometimes to have people like that, to just go, in terms of all the people I'm relating to, I'm not friends with this person. Yeah. And sometimes that's fine. Sometimes it is something that's like, this is my brother. I need to actually figure out how we're going to start communicating at some point. But sometimes it's like, here's this person who sits in the classroom somewhere near me sometimes. I don't actually need to massively get to a point that we're best friends, and I'm not necessarily pursuing that. So I can say, all right, they say a lot of dumb things to me, and they don't really accept it if I say anything back. It's just a waste of my time. So I'm not going to waste my time. I'll just deal. And so it does mean, that's a bad relationship. Yeah. How much is it because I'm doing a poor job of connecting in that relationship, and how much is it because they're doing a poor job of connecting in that relationship? I think sometimes it's that person's immature, and so it's hard to connect with them. They won't accept me saying, well, actually, I think this way. So that just means I can't connect with them. I've tried and learned, actually, no, they don't accept this as a valid kind of part of relating. So I guess we're not going to relate. Like, we're not going to talk to each other. Which is sad. Yeah. I think recognizing that as a sad thing and not just a nothing thing is good, but there's not really a reason to say I must be friends with everyone I know. Yeah. I'm happy to have acquaintances. I'm happy to have acquaintances.
I would prefer a few, like, close friendships and stuff where I'm much more open to communicate how I normally communicate than a lot of different shallow relationships where I feel watered down in all my interactions all the time.
Yeah.
I think most people feel that way.
But at some point, you do need to...
Obviously, yeah. To engage in
accept.
society and in a community, you're going to have to talk with people who communicate differently and have different personalities to you. Like, that's a given. And you can even be close with people who communicate differently. But there needs to be some acknowledgement or understanding of how each other communicate for that to be a close relationship properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes there are just within natural friendships that have formed for whatever reason that you are functioning very differently. Yeah. But I think that's then a space for curiosity as well.
You just learn to recognize each other's mannerisms and all that kind of stuff. Like even if you've known each other like your whole life, like me and my mum, we communicate very differently. And like obviously there's some problems that come around from that, but because obviously she's known me since I was born, because she birthed me. We understand each other a bit when it comes to like communication and stuff more than we would with other people who probably communicate in similar ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And because there's that relationship and stuff.
Yeah. And that's even a relationship where your relationship with your parents is governed by a different set of rules.
Yeah.
Like you're not necessarily always just saying to your parents whatever you want to talk to them about.
True.
Sometimes you just need to listen to them and do the thing they're telling you to do. Sometimes there is space to have a bit more of a free-flowing conversation. Yeah. As particularly as you get older, you're going to shift that way towards you having a free-flowing conversation. And one thing I've wondered with my daughters is there going to be a certain age where I turn around to them and say, actually, you should call me Mike. Because now you're not a child, you're an adult. Talk to me as an adult. I was just wondering if that's a helpful thing for children in making a transition to adulthood, that they go from, they can still call me Dad, but they can also call me Mike. Every now and then, like, I'm thinking about it now because every now and then one of them goes, your name is Mike. And then it's such a giggle and I said a naughty thing. I'd call you Daddy, but your name's Mike. So there's I'm wondering how much that's a helpful transition into adulthood to go from calling your parents Mum, Dad into calling them by their first name. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder.
Right. Moving on from the conversation about conversations.
Oh, okay.
Because we had a long list of stuff that we were going to talk about.
Not today. That's for all the other podcasts.
We're going to get through that in more than a few episodes. But what's something that you would want to talk about? Because I managed to get Marxism and some other stuff in. So,
election? You want to talk about election? Predestination?
I thought you meant like our election that we
No, I don't want to talk about politics. I want to talk theology.
Sure.
You're
because you have studied this in like college and stuff. So
I studied it before college.
True.
I was hardened and set before I got to college. I was frustratingly obstinate at college because I'd already... And not because I'd turned up to college just with, here's my dumb idea, I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
I turned up to college fairly mature in my thinking on this stuff. So I was a little bit unshakable. I think a lot of people come to the idea of election from a place of free will.
Right.
So they grow up with an idea thinking, I am responsible and in charge of everything. Whereas through my teenage years, I shifted heavily into a fairly fatalistic view. So I was a deist, just that God wound up the world and then let it go. I was a complicated deist. He wound up the world and let it go in such a way that everything happens the way he wants it to happen.
Yeah.
So there's no mistakes, there's no falling off the line that he's wound it up to. He's wound it up perfectly and it flows on. I disagree with that idea now. But I also had an idea of everything is under God's control in that circumstance,
Yeah.
like that He has wound everything in such a way. Yeah. So I didn't really have an idea of free will for myself.
But were you a Christian at the time, or?
Not really. I grew up in a somewhat Christian house, but Christianity, God wasn't really talked about at home. Not a whole lot. I can maybe remember one or two conversations, but not really. Like, I said grace at dinner, every dinner, just because someone had to, and so that honour fell to the youngest. I think there was some kind of a theology there, being like, there's something nice in getting me to say grace, but there wasn't any. I don't think there was, like, we didn't read the Bible at the dinner table. There wasn't a whole lot of input there. I was taken to church, and I engaged with some ideas at church, but that was it. I don't know how well I understood things. I was quite old before I realised my storybook Bible that I took to church every Sunday wasn't a Bible. I was just confused. And they were like, look up this verse, and I'm starting to flip through my Bible, being like, I don't know what you mean by verse. Which picture should I be looking at? Anyway. So I didn't realise I didn't have a Bible. So I probably had read a fair bit of the Bible at that point, but my understanding pretty weak, and my ideas fairly self-assembled. But I assembled myself into a fairly predestination, not really the doctrine of predestination. I figured out for myself kind of a fatalist view of the world. Where do you think you come from?
Well, I think probably not as far towards the free will and like unrestrained ideas. I think like I definitely grew up with the idea of leaning more towards, like, obviously, like, I believe in predestination. How will I define predestination? My idea is God has chosen the people, like in Revelation there's the idea of the scroll with all the names and everything. So who will be saved is predetermined.
It's all written down.
Yes.
Yeah.
And logically that would assume that all those who aren't saved is also predetermined.
Yep.
But I have the idea, I haven't thought loads about this or tested it theologically, but the idea that you freely, to a degree, you freely choose, as in like your understanding of yourself and how you think and your feelings and everything, your conception of you, that person decides to follow Christ, that kind of stuff. But if God made everything and there's a plan for everything, then then you deciding to follow God is going to be a natural consequence of what God has designed and made.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that you're not choosing it. Like, it's not like I'm watching my life happen and I have no control over what I'm doing. I do have control. I pick up this book. I could stab you with a sword, but I'm not going to. It'll be fine.
You did pick up the book.
Yeah.
Why is there the two towers on top?
Oh, sorry.
That's embarrassing. I'm trying to concentrate here.
Well, should it be in like order? Like you would pick up Fellowship to read it first.
Yeah, I don't know why you put it in reverse order then.
Because like if you put it up like that, then it's
yeah.
Well, what's the correct way to order things on your bookshelf?
However you want.
Yeah, true.
Most of my bookshelf is on my bedside table.
Yeah, I just realised I can't like see this properly. These are the Lord of the Rings, but it's got like Tolkien's artwork.
That's Tolkien's own work.
Yeah. And it's got like explanations on the back. Yeah.
Elech fluch lech bullock.
That's Danish.
Is that Elvish? Is that how it sounds?
No, that sounds like Danish to me.
It sounds like Danish.
Oh,
Apfelstrudel.
That's German.
Sorry.
As someone who grew up in a household that spoke a bit of Danish, yeah, it sounded like, yeah. It would be butchered. It wasn't Danish, but it sounded a little bit like Danish. Danish is like German, but you're coughing and like trying to cough up phlegm throughout the entire thing.
Glockenflachen.
Kind of, yeah. We just isolated the entire Danish fan base on the podcast.
G'day, Danish people.
Yeah.
Welcome.
They won't know what we're saying because we're not speaking.
I imagine quite a lot of people...
Most people in Denmark can speak a language that isn't Denmark, and Danish isn't spoken anywhere that isn't Denmark. It's like the most useless language. Yeah.
Well,
As someone who used to speak it.
don't we have a princess?
Oh yeah, with there's
A queen?
No, I don't think she's a queen. Yeah, I don't know. My mom would know.
Someone should
Because
look
she's
up
up-
this Tassie lady
Yeah.
at the Millennium, at the
There is-
2000 Olympics in Sydney.
There is an
Met
Australian.
a prince.
Yeah. There is an Australian.
Of Denmark?
An Australian
Yeah.
who is a princess in
I
Denmark.
think she's queen now.
I don't know if that's how
I
it
think
works.
old Freddie's the king.
Can you become? Do you become queen? Because
Well, if your husband's the king.
Yeah, but no, but that doesn't always happen, does it? Like I thought there were some
Consort?
situations. You know,
Yeah,
if you
Camilla's the consort, isn't she?
Oh, anyways. I'm not, again, like I said, apart from Hamish and Andy, I know nothing about celebrities.
Well, I think this was a good topic.
Yeah.
Imagine just going to the Olympics, going to a party, bam, suddenly you're the queen of a country you never even heard of.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What would you say your favourite animal is?
My favourite animal?
Completely, yeah.
Probably a meerkat.
Oh, why?
It's just humble.
Never heard that about meerkats before.
Because it's a meerkat. Nothing more.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay, yeah. Oh, there's that one.
Also because of the Lion King and I like Timon and Pumbaa.
True.
Until I realised their whole point is, have you tried not worrying that your dad died?
Yeah. Well, do they know that his dad died? Or...
I don't think that matters. We know that his dad died.
Yes.
And in the narrative, they come up to him and say, Hakuna Matata. Means no worries for the rest of your days.
Yeah.
It's your problem-free philosophy. Just don't worry about your dad dying.
Yeah.
And eat bugs.
At the time, like it seems fun. Is like eat the bugs. I will not eat the bugs.
That's
even
not
though-
very Hakuna Matata. of
Even though some international organisations are telling me to eat the bugs, I will not.
I remember years ago Triple J doing a thing on insect protein and how insect protein actually takes very little water.
Tastes a lot of bugs though, which is
Well,
kind of fun.
yeah.
It doesn't taste as good as steak, so
Doesn't taste as good as steak, but like still, in terms of water, it's quite cheap. Doesn't take that much water. But then where is it? It's not taken off. It's not mass produced.
it was like
I can't buy a bag of insect protein at Woolies. What is this?
like fake, like synthetic meat and stuff. Like
That's very popular.
but it's. I remember like 5 years ago hearing like how it was going to be everywhere. It was going to be like the biggest thing ever, but
Oh, really?
it's not that.
No.
It's not that big. It's like you can.
But I mean, you can at least find it in the supermarket.
You can find it, but its quality and how far-reaching it is not.
It's not good.
It's been
And-
nowhere. It's not great.
I don't think there are significant reasons to prefer that.
No.
Yeah, like it's not more healthy.
No.
It's not better for the environment necessarily.
No.
The amount of work that goes
Yes.
into it, it's not that good.
Yeah.
Like, what's the benefit? You eat something that kind of sucks for no reason. Like, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's like being vegan
Yeah.
or gluten-free.
Yeah. Look, gluten-free, it's a thing.
Yeah. Are you celiac or?
No, I'm not celiac. My mum's celiac.
Gotcha.
And after my trial of going gluten-free, I went, this works, and I don't like talking to doctors, so
Sure.
I'll just sit here,
Yeah.
not eating gluten.
I was just talking about your dietary stuff to all 3 listeners.
Yeah, look, it's a boring conversation.
True.
And I get bored of it often. But, like, I understand I'm putting people out without having a proper medical diagnosis.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? It upsets my tummy.
Your dietary needs are unexciting.
Unexciting.
We would prefer you had like a super serious disease or something, so we at least.
Yeah. Well, at least if I had a note from the doctor, this would put you out for good reason. But I went to a cafe the other week and they didn't have any. Well, I said, can I get this whatever it was, turkey bacon and eggs on gluten free, and then they went, oh, the only gluten free bread we've got is banana bread, and I went, well, that is a weird sandwich. I might just go no bread. And it's that easy. Like, I've got the main bit of the food.
Yeah.
I don't think the bread was like, oh, wow, what incredible bread. It was the eggs and the turkey bacon.
Yeah.
And I ate them, drank a coffee. I had a lovely time.
Yeah.
Who needs bread? I mean, I miss it. But still, there are good gluten-free donuts out there. Gluten-free fruit mince pies. Didn't see any of those in quick sale the other day at the shops. But anyway, better luck next time. So, yeah. Anyway, but predestination. I think people come from different places with that.
Yeah.
To be thinking in terms of assuming God is in control kind of when not.
Yeah.
Or assuming we're in control and God's not. I think one of the benefits of we're in control and God's not is it explains why bad things happen. Why did something bad happen? Oh, it happened because that person chose that and not God. But that's just not what we learn about God in the Bible and what we can reason about God in nature.
It gives a purpose to like things that happen, and all like good and bad things. Like with like there are countless stories of the Bible of people making mistakes, or of people making mistakes, bad things happening, which when you read it, like that was that person's decision, but then it talks about like how God used that for a good and greater purpose. And I think that
Joseph's brothers selling him in slavery.
Yeah. And I think there's a comfort that you have in. I referred to this once before as God's Rube Goldberg machine, of the idea that he's got everything set up and everything happens in a very specific way, and it's like we all operate like even like we can make a decision, and we believe that we have complete freedom to, and to a degree. I do have the freedom to make a decision, but that decision, also we have to remember, if God's outside of time, like he knows everything like past, present, future, so he knows the decision I'm going to make, and he also knows the conditions that will lead to me making the decision, and he can predetermine those conditions for me to make that decision. He designed me. There's this theory that imagine if there was an all-knowing being in the universe, what there is. Well, he's outside the universe, but.
Yep.
If someone knew the location of every single atom and perfectly understood physics, they would be able to determine the entire future of everything.
Yep.
And I think that applies to God in that, and that's how I articulate and understand predestination. Of if He's put everything in place, He's put everything in place so that everything will happen to us according to His plan. It's not that we don't have free will, but it's that or we don't have the will to choose things. But that will to choose things coincides and lines up perfectly with God's plan.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So you're
example.
fairly young
I
Mike
think,
Deist in some of that.
but obviously with the caveat of it's not just like he wound it up and like goof. His hand is very much active in all of it, according to a very specific purpose. It's not like not like he was just like, I'm going to make a world and see what happens. Like I'm just going to open up like World Box or something, put some islands in, chuck some people.
This is the latest SimCity.
Yeah, it was a very particular plan for a very particular purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there is a sorry, I think about higher porpoise. Imagine two porpoises and one's higher. A higher
when
porpoise.
you said high porpoise, I was just like a really like drugged like
dolphin
or something.
That kind of porpoise.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, actually, okay, speaking of that, so dolphins have been like recorded to like microdose themselves on like pufferfish and stuff.
Delicious.
Like to get like a effect.
To get high.
Yeah, and there's like cases of like jaguars and those kind of things like rubbing themselves with like certain leaves, that kind of stuff. Like a lot of animals actually like microdose themselves with like kinds of like especially like neurotoxin poisons because obviously it affects the brain. I'm trying to do that to get like those kind of effects. It's very weird. Yeah.
My mum's dog stayed with us one time, and he spent the whole time pretty much high on nightshade. We had a nightshade bush. We didn't really know what it was. We didn't care. It's weed, another weed. At least it's almost green. Anyway, but he just started chewing it. Chewed this whole bush to death. Okay. But yeah, he was like high.
I thought it was like really toxic. Well, obviously pufferfish and stuff are really toxic. But like, I
Yeah.
guess it depends.
Obviously, he was dosing it right.
Yeah.
But
So he can't eat chocolate, but he can handle toxic nightshade.
yeah, and enjoyed being dizzy, being
Is
drunk.
that what's catnip like? Because
I think that just affects cats.
Yeah, it has.
But I don't know.
Well, it has the kind of effects on cats, but like, how does it?
I'm not a cat person, so
I
know about dogs.
I know about well because I'm going to study zoology, so I know about
Well, you tell me after you studied it. Then.
I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, you figure it out. How do animals get high?
Well,
We'll stop asking that question. Every lecture. Yeah. But as we consider God as the creator of all things, I think it's also worth seeing him as the sustainer. Yeah. Sometimes the picture is that like the miracles are the extraordinary things that God does. But actually there is the miraculous way in which God sustains everything happening in its normal course. So it's not necessarily, here's a miracle of something extraordinary happening. Actually, the miracle is the normal happening. To consider that gravity always works the way it works, is always constant. That's a miracle. I think sometimes we skip that.
And that's why I think my understanding. I don't know if it might not be a perfect understanding. I don't know how it fares theologically. That's just the way that I've articulated it, and balancing the idea of, well, I'm thinking right now and I'm choosing different things right now. So clearly I do have an element of freedom of choice.
Yep.
And also I'm like told how, like in the Bible talks about like people like following Christ and stuff. But then also I do know that God is completely sovereign and stuff. So that's my way of like having those two ideas working at the same time. But the way that I would say it differs from like say Smikes when you're younger is it's not that I don't think like God set up the root goal machine set up, but I think God's hand is working throughout the root, like peas, like I don't know, the ball
always
of his
making
hand.
it work.
Yeah. So he's very much active in those specific things. And it's not like and it's definitely not like I'll see how this goes. It's like this needs to happen, so this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen.
Yeah.
And like he's planned for our mistakes and he's planned for what we'll do and stuff.
Yep. Yeah. And there's a degree to which he's I forgot what I was saying. I can hear bagpipes.
Is that what that is?
I think it's bagpipes.
That's cool.
Treat in the Oaks today. We've got bagpipes.
I love bagpipes.
We don't often have bagpipes, as far as I know.
We should have more bagpipes.
More bagpipes in town.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Bagpipes. What a treat. For understanding election, in terms of the Trinity is the way to understand it. So the Father chooses, the Son comes, and in his whole oblation, sometimes we talk too much just about the cross, but it's his whole oblation, all the work of the Son, purchases for the elect everything they need, including faith. And then the Spirit comes to work in us those things that the Son has bought for us, that the Father chose for us. And so the Spirit brings about the faith that the Son has purchased, that the Father chose. The Spirit makes us alive in Christ. And he does that first. Like the Spirit is primary. Logically, I think some people would say not temporarily, but logically, he's first, and then the believer logically flowing out of the work of the Spirit in them believes. Happening simultaneously, but there's a logical distinction that it is the work of the Spirit and then logically flowing on from the work of the Spirit is the faith of the believer. although simultaneously in time. In some ways, I'm curious about that. What exactly is that first moment of believing? Is it that first moment that someone has all of their theology together and then they logically there are able to commit to God with a full and complete understanding of the gospel? Or is it earlier than that? Is it there's a soft turning towards God thinking, oh, I need something to be right with God, but it's not right? Is that the moment then they've believed and the Spirit works in them and that thing grows from that place? That faith has grown from small. I don't know. So depends what day it is. If I feel like saying, oh, you know what, when I was a deist and I had pretty wonky ideas of God, pretty wonky kind of understanding of the gospel, there was something about me that was oriented towards God, and curious about God and interested in God. Whether I believed or not, I'm like, sometimes I'll say, yeah, it was faith. It was crap faith, like it was garbage, didn't make much sense, but it was faith in God that grew into real faith. Or do I say, oh no, when I was about 21 or so, that's when I turned around and went, oh no, this is how I need to live.
I think you can have the idea of there's a point where you start to think about things and stuff, and your heart starts to change. But then I think you can also, and this is for some, I think it's different if you've grown up in a Christian home. Like obviously not everyone feel like they have a faith when they're like little and when they're younger, but then they come to faith later, or they might not. But a lot of people come to faith when they're a little bit older, and decide for themselves, and that's where their heart's slowly changing. But there's often, a lot of people have like a definitive moment they can think of.
Yeah.
But also from my experience, I can't think of a time where I wouldn't call myself a Christian.
Yeah.
Obviously, plenty of times, constantly, that I can think of not behaving or acting like a Christian, or my understanding of theology is not as robust or articulate or logical as it should or could be. It could be misplaced. But I can't think of a time where I would say that my faith was not growing. And so like it depends if you're born into a Christian home or not, how you're raised. But I think that you can have both a gradual growth in faith and your heart being changed, but at the same time you can also have a distinct moment where you're saying, okay, now we've crossed the line. Now this is when I would call myself saved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a joy to grow up.
Yeah.
With knowing Christ.
Yeah.
And the solution so much is before the foundation of the world.
Yeah.
When that book, that whole scroll was filled in with everyone's names, that's when I was saved.
Yes.
It was guaranteed then, without question, without doubt, without failure. Our God is immutable.
Yeah. I think, I was just thinking of this, I think also when you lean more towards predestination and stuff, you almost remove you don't remove the responsibility for people to evangelize and everything. Like obviously we want people to talk to others about Jesus and like share the gospel, but it removes the giving yourself the sense of accomplishment or saying like, well, I did this, and like you're not proud of yourself that someone else has turned to Christ.
Yeah.
Now God can definitely use you, and through your actions, someone can like begin to think about things and come to Christ. But you don't get the credit for that in the same way that God does. And then also, I think that's also good because it means that people are no longer worried about like, oh, well, I can't share this opinion because that might turn someone, like I hear Christians now saying like, oh, well, we can't talk about these issues in church, or we can't do this kind of thing. Or Christians shouldn't talk about politics or something because that might push people away from the church.
That's been a very Australian tradition there.
Or we should... Or we should establish, like, I was talking to someone about, like, how I think voluntary schism is a bad thing, because I think it harms, I think it divides the church, and it's bad to reject, Martin Luther wasn't he didn't commit voluntary schism, he wanted to reform the Catholic Church until he was excommunicated.
Yep.
I think saying, like, there are plenty of churches in, like, America, for example, the Presbyterian Church, there are like more conservatives than progressives in that, and they still left their own denomination because the denomination was too liberal. Now, the mainline Presbyterian Church, with all of its institutional wealth, with all of its cathedrals, its history, that has become largely liberalised because all the conservatives abandoned it.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to someone, like, in the church about how I think there's a problem with, so in the church that we attend, about how I think there's a problem with voluntary schism. But they brought up the example of, like, one Anglican minister they know, he decided to, like, start his own non-denominational church, for then Christians, for people to come who didn't want to be associated with a particular denomination because that might be too, like, confronting or whatever. But I'm like, I understand, I see the value in that, but I also think our response, like, but I think the idea of predestination almost gives the freedom to say, like, it's not we're not the ones converting people. We absolutely should be sharing the gospel and stuff, but to suggest that we can't talk about a certain thing or we can't be confronting because then they'll stop someone from becoming a Christian. Like, we hear the phrase, like, you might turn someone away from Christ. I think it's almost a bit arrogant to believe that we have the power to turn away someone that God's predestined to be turned to Christ.
Yeah.
We don't have the power to stop that.
Yeah.
And even if we think we do, our actions are already acting in accordance with God's plan.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's not a lot of space for pride in evangelism. Yes. We can't say it's because of me. We say it's because of God.
And also there's not a lot of space for fear.
I'd say there's a lot of reason for confidence.
Yes.
I'd say that. There's a lot of reason for confidence. Particularly because you go out knowing there are people whose names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. There are people who have been chosen to be saved. And so I'm just going to try and find them.
Yeah.
Even the picture that Christ has of the sower scatters the seed. You're scattering seed, you're throwing it out. Who knows if you're just throwing it straight on the road or where you're throwing it, but you're just scattering because you're going to find that fruitful one.
Yeah. And when you invest in a relationship, if you have someone who's not a Christian, invest in a relationship, they can give you a lot of information about that. And obviously, again, like, in what I've said, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be, like, trying to, like, turn people to Christ and stuff and talk to them, but we have to remember who's really doing them, like, the greatest work and stuff in that happening. And God can also work through, like, use us as an instrument. Like, he uses people throughout the Bible as an instrument for his deeds.
I think we should expect him to use us as instruments, as his agents. We're rational beings, so we're agents rather than instruments, but still same kind of thing. So we're God's agents in the world, so we should be working to see people transformed and come to life and be saved, which is good work. What a delight. Interesting raising non-denominational churches in Australia. I'm interested in talking about that more. I don't know if we've got more time for that today.
What's the time?
Nah, I don't think we've got time for that. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah. I've got my thoughts.
Yeah, I've got my thoughts, just even in terms of how it's worked out. But we'll talk about that maybe next week. Well, this week we've talked about what is a podcast.
Yeah.
This is a podcast. Talked about Hamish and Andy.
Had a long conversation about what a conversation is.
Talk about audience, conversation, how those bits fit together a little bit, but not a lot. Mentioned Beetle in a box, what a time. Talked about some random things. Marxism, election, all sorts of stuff. Meerkats. What is a meerkat?
Ethics of Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, terrible. Just
I don't know.
terrible.
I feel like I obviously, like, it is mildly, like, hedonistic and, like, almost like removing yourself from responsibility, which to be honest, sometimes I get, like, sometimes I get. I'm like, yeah, I don't entirely blame people for wanting to not have to worry about stuff, but at the same time, I'm like, but I think what's important is Simba grew up with, like, Hakuna Matata, even Timon and Pumbaa. But Hakuna Matata is not, like, the end message of the film, because Timon and Pumbaa help Simba
They end up overcoming it.
They end up overcoming it. They, like, obviously it helps Simba grow a little bit, like it gives him like the freedom and stuff. But then, and like Nala calls him like to responsibility and duty, and that's the role that he ends up in. He doesn't stay. He doesn't stay in that period of rest and relaxation. He takes up his like responsibility as king, and he fulfills his responsibility, and he does. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. A son back from the dead. Very good. Well, I'd like to throw down a challenge.
Ooh.
My challenge is for you to get Nick Freitas onto our
That's so not. He's not going to do
YouTube
that.
podcast.
Isn't to follow us or?
No, to do a quick conversation with him.
Oh.
To include in that podcast.
Right. Okay.
So I think it doesn't need to be long. It just needs to be like a 5-10 minute video call that you have with Nick Freitas.
Right.
You need to make that happen. Get that in the podcast.
Yeah.
And that's my challenge to you. You've already had his order at Starbucks.
No, that was Charlie Kirk.
Oh, that was Charlie Kirk's order.
Charlie Kirk is also. He was shot, so he's dead. So it'd be hard.
I'm aware. I was not about to throw down that set.
Yeah, no. So like, it'd be hard to get a.
Yeah. Well, I was saying Nick Freitas.
I got the Starbucks order when I was in America. Why would I get it for someone who's alive? Like, it's a lot less significant. Like, I got that. I don't know.
Well, let's not start this challenge by saying that Nick Freitas isn't significant.
He is, but he's not dead.
Yeah.
And
but how much can he bench? These are key questions to ask. Yeah. So that's my challenge for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been the SillyWilly podcast.
Yeah, it's a weird way to.
I've been Mike.
To end it.
This is Will.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. If you're still here,
why are you?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
But
if you are still here, subscribe and follow and do all that stuff.
Ring that bell.
Is that I've never rung the bell on anyone.
Me neither. But that's what you got to say.
Yeah. But engage in common ideas of stuff for us to talk about. That isn't conversations for.
We finished that conversation today.
Thank goodness.
So, thanks for that.
Thanks.
Oh, goodness. Why do you always catch my fingers? Anyway.
You've got smaller hands than I anticipate.
You just aim and then when you hit, then you stop.
Alright. I don't know why we're filming for this bit.
See you later, everyone.